Okay, so you want to get huge? You've come to the right place. This is full tutorial on how to bulking 101 with rules to live by. I'm Scott. If you're new here, this is my page. This is what we do for fitness, for fun, and we talk a lot about food as well, which we're going to talk about in this video. I'm going to split this up a little bit because I'm going to post it on a few different platforms. We're going to do YouTube with the video and Instagram as well, but it's going to be a longer one. Too long for Insta, so if you're watching this on YouTube, shout out over there. I might throw it up as a podcast as well, so we got the good mic here recording that into the computer as well. So bulking 101, basically what is the definition of a bulk? We'll start there. There's a couple ways you can go about a bulk, but basically it's in a phase of gaining weight. In this case, of course, we're talking about gaining muscle. You don't want to uselessly gain weight without gaining too much muscle, so that's why there's going to be a lot of fitness and workout stuff involved in this as well. But it's basically how to do it best, for how long. We'll go over some frequently asked questions, how long you should stay in this bulking phase, and what you can expect food-wise, workout-wise, and results-wise. Good question I get a lot is when to bulk, when to cut, how do I know when to do which one of each? There's kind of a few different ways you can go about this. Obviously, if you're, a dude who's 18 to 40 and you weigh 120 pounds, or if you're, not a stereotype, but a woman or a dude who's 54 and weighs 312 pounds, it's quite evident what you should be doing, bulking or cutting, but if you're somewhere in the middle, there's obviously a lot of different wiggle room. So to start with this, I almost always recommend cutting in 80% of scenarios, but if you are a dude, especially a younger dude under 30, and you're looking to gain a bunch of muscle, this is the best way to go about it without A, getting too fat, and B, making sustainable results that you can, keep that muscle on for a long period of time after. So we'll start with me. Why am I doing it? How long have I been out of a bulk phase? Why am I getting back into it? Pretty much the first 9 years of my lifting career. So from age 16 to 26, basically the first 10 years, I was bulking unintentionally. I was just eating a lot of calories for the first, 5-6 years. So that's what you're supposed to do. You hear things when you're young like, oh, eat rice and eat oats and it'll put mass on you. Yeah, if you eat enough of anything, it'll put mass on you. So I was kind of unintentionally bulking for a long time. And then when COVID hit, I decided I was going to try to get a lot more cut than I'd been before, which I did. And that has kind of led to me losing a lot of weight and then staying kind of around maintenance or in a bit of a fat loss phase for the last 3 years. Earlier this year, lost a lot more weight. Was in a very aggressive calorie deficit cutting phase and got quite lean. So I just decided it's time to get back at it. I haven't bulked properly since 2019. That's when I did my first kind of tracked bulk, and it went very well. I'm not going to go quite as aggressive with it as I did that year, but we'll get into that coming up. So I'll give you what my stats and goals and stuff are with this, just so you can kind of relate it to yourself. I weighed myself this morning, so this is about a week into me bulking. Weighed 162 pounds, which is on the lower end of where I've been the last few years. Over the course of this bulk, which I'm going to do for 100 days, right up until the Super Bowl. I think that's a good deadline to stop. I'm expecting to gain probably between 6 and 10 pounds, somewhere in the middle of that, 7 to 8 pounds. Basically, the idea is to go as slow as possible because that's going to help you gain the least amount of fat possible. Now, obviously, you can just turbo bulk, eat as much food as you want, go crazy with donuts and cakes and whatever calories you want. You're going to gain a lot of weight pretty easily, no matter what your body type is. But if you track it a little bit more meticulously and go slow with it, it's not a very aggressive calorie surplus that you're eating in. You're going to build as much muscle and maintain as little fat gain as possible. So like I said, I'm going for 100 days. I think that's a good amount of time. It's about 15 weeks. It's from Halloween until Super Bowl, which is a good time of year because it's going into winter. Not gonna have your shirt off a lot, and it's a good time to, warm up, stay inside a little bit more, hibernate, go into bear mode, which is kind of what we're gonna be doing. So it's a good time of year, and it's also a good amount of time. I'm not gonna gain so much weight that it's gonna be impossible to deal with afterwards, and it also still gives me enough time to put on some muscle mass, hopefully. The thing with results with the bulk, you don't really see the final results until the end of your next cuts, because at the end of this bulk, you're just gonna look a little bit fluffier than you do now. After you've cut again, that's when you can kind of see how much muscle you built from your bulk. So I'm not gonna really reap the rewards of this, so to speak, for another 6 to 8 months. All right, so the first place to start is, of course, calories, how to set up your macros, protein, carbs, and fat, and at what you should be looking for in terms of caloric intake daily. Now, tracking when you're bulking, I do want to get this across, is a lot less important. You have to be a lot less meticulous about it than when you are cutting. When you're cutting, it's a lot more important to be dialed. There's a lot more room for error. When you're bulking, if you're going a little bit over, it's okay. When you're cutting, you want to be a little bit more precise. When I'm bulking, I'll generally track calories 4 days a week. Eat intuitively 2 days a week, and then 1 day a week just do whatever I want and not pay attention to it at all. When I'm cutting, I always track 5 days a week, kind of eat intuitively and roughly get there 1 day a week, and then 1 day a week just do whatever I want. I'm all about consistency over perfection. I'm never right on it 7 days a week. That goes for training as well. If you're 70 to 80% dialed in, you're going to get results. With bulking, it's, I don't want to say it's less, but it is even a little bit less important to track your calories. So the numbers that I'm shooting for over the course of this bulk, this is a good place to start. I normally recommend testing your maintenance calories, finding out what those are. And there's a few ways you can do that. You can go into Google and just find a few different maintenance calorie calculators. The more info you have to put in, the more accurate the number you're going to get. So I'd fill out probably 2 or 3 of those and take the average. It'll ask you things like gender, height, weight, activity level, things like that. And that'll give you a rough idea of where your maintenance is. Find a number that you like in terms of calories, or that is kind of the average of those numbers. Test that for a week. And if you don't gain any weight, if you stay the exact same, that's about where your maintenance is. And then if you're bulking, I would add anywhere from 200 to 400 calories to that number for the duration of your bulk. So I like to go in a more shallow surplus. So I'm going to go about 250 calories above maintenance to, like I said earlier, maintain as much muscle as possible and minimize fat gain over the course of the bulk. If you're really skinny, if this is your first time doing this, even if you're new to working out, you can go well above that. You can go up to 500 calories above your maintenance, and you're not going to do too much damage as long as you're consistent. In terms of macronutrients themselves, I do track all 3. You don't have to. Protein is the most important, obviously. You also need a base level of fat, a minimum fat intake every single day. So that one would be the second most important. And then I would just fill your remaining calories with carbs. So I pretty much always use goal body weight for grams of protein to eat per day. So I'm 162 pounds right now. I'll, like I said, probably look to gain 6 to 10 pounds. So I'm going to start mine at 180 grams of protein per day for those days I'm tracking for this entire bulk. Fat, I usually go about 0.3 to 0.35 grams per pound of body weight. So about a third of your body weight, that's your minimum. That's your minimum. So for me, I'm going to go about 60 grams of fat per day, which is a little bit more than 30% of my body weight currently. And then I'm just going to fill the remaining calories with carbs. So my maintenance calories is around 2,300-ish. I'm going to eat about 2,550 to 2,600. That's about a 250 calorie surplus. So you take the 180 grams of protein, the 60 grams of fat gives you this many calories. I'm just going to fill the remaining amount of calories all with carbs. I prefer a higher carb diet because I just feel better. I like eating carbs. I like fruit. I like cereal. I like bagels. And I feel a lot more energetic when I'm at the gym and doing things around the house and just moving better when I'm on a higher carb diet as opposed to a high fat diet, which I've only tried a couple times, or like a carnivore diet, which I don't think I would try. Keto as well. Not really my thing because it's just too limiting. I like to eat the foods that I like to eat. All right, next section is going to be all about micronutrients. So the difference between macro and micronutrients, if this is new to you, macronutrients, of course, protein, carbs, fat, and alcohol. Those are the things that make up calories. Micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, basically your fruit and vegetables. These are things that generally don't have a ton of calories in them. Some of them don't have any, but they are still very important. Even in a bulk, this is not to be overlooked. You still need a base level of health. Otherwise, none of this is going to work. You're going to have no energy. You're going to feel like shit, and you're not going to have good results. So I still am going to aim for at least 3, if not up to 5 pieces of fruit per day, which is pretty standard for me. I have strawberries and bananas in my smoothie every single day. Have an apple every day. Some form of berries every day, and then usually a banana as well in there. So that's going to be easy. 2 to 4 servings of vegetables per day as well. Like I said, this is not to be overlooked. I've been loving these farm fresh carrots, so I'm just going to keep eating those. I'll probably 2 to 3 times a week as well have a full big salad, which you can add calories to make it higher calorie, but it's still important to be getting those micronutrients in, even when you are in a weight gaining phase. All right, next we're going to talk about training, how to set up your training, whether it should stay the same, whether it should be different, depending on your goals in terms of body composition. And in short, it should stay pretty much the same. I am going to say this though. I said earlier tracking macros was slightly less important in a bulk. Tracking your lifts is more important, and you'll have more of an advantage if you do that. You'll get to use these calories to make a little bit more gains, so to speak, in the gym. You're gonna be on higher carbs, you're gonna have more energy, you're gonna be able to lift a little bit more, especially the deeper into this bulk that you get. So tracking your lifts and taking advantage of those calories to bump your numbers up a little bit, get a little bit stronger, put on that extra bit of muscle is important. When you're cutting, when you're going the opposite way, you're just trying to hang on to every shred of muscle you have left. So even though your training split should stay the same, your volume may decrease a little bit, strength may decrease a little bit. In a bulk, it's the opposite. Keep track of your lifts. Those numbers should be going up, and they should stay up when you switch back to maintenance or into a cutting phase after the bulk. I should say that really is the best part of the bulk. Obviously, eating more food is a lot of fun, but seeing those numbers go up that much quicker in the gym when you switch back to bulking is pretty exciting and pretty motivating, and one of the best parts of working out. All right, some easy foods to add. Now, there's a couple different ways you can go about this. Obviously, if you want to do more of a dirty bulk, there's a lot of different foods you can find. You can keep your diet roughly the same, just add a couple cookies every day, add a pint of ice cream a couple times a week, and that's going to get you to where you need to go calorie-wise. If you do like how your diet is set up now, or when you're cutting or when you're in maintenance, it's also easy to just add higher calorie foods without changing things too much. For example, use bagels instead of regular bread. Even with your fruits and vegetables, eating things like bananas and apples as opposed to berries or kiwis is just going to add, 50 to 100 calories per serving there. Using different sauces, adding just a little bit more ketchup, barbecue sauce, having a glass of juice once per day. These are easy ways to just get more calories in without completely changing your diet. Now, of course, the more fun way to do it and a different way is to change your diet, and you have a little bit more freedom when it comes to fast food, when it comes to going out for pizza, when it comes to eating a donut if someone brings them into work or whatever it is. Those options are there as well. But if you do want to stay on roughly the same diet you're on now, just adding a little bit extra sauce, butter, using cooking oil are good ways to just add extra calories without changing things too much, and you won't feel gross after. All right, next one is to do with the scale. Now, I did weigh myself at the start of this. That's the first time I've weighed myself in probably maybe the third time in the last year. I don't use my scale really ever. I don't really care what the number on there is. Some people do. It is a good way to, I don't want to even say track progress, but it is a good way to make sure you're going in the right direction if it's not visible right away. Now, it's not the best way. It's definitely not even one of the 3 best ways. But if you're someone who has a certain goal in mind when it comes to weight, you can use the scale. Expected rate of weight gain when you're in a bulk for the surplus that I'm eating in, which again is about 250 calories above maintenance, is probably going to be about 0.5 to 1 pounds per week. So that's going to be slow. This is 15 weeks. Like I said, between 6 and 10 pounds is what I'd expect to gain. If you're at the top end of that surplus, if you're going about 500 calories above your maintenance, I would expect 1 to 1.4 pounds per week. I wouldn't look for anything above that. I would, in fact, dial it back a little bit if you are gaining, unless it's right at the very start. If you continually gaining more than 1.5 pounds a week, I would dial it back a little bit. Then on the other end, if you're only eating 150 to 200 calories above maintenance and you're not really gaining weight, or even, 1 pound every 3 weeks, you can probably pick it up a little bit and, add some more peanut butter to that sandwich. All right, just a few, FAQs before we wrap things up in terms of bulking. These are ones that I see a lot, that I get a lot, that I know people get confused about. The first one is to do with cardio. Do I still do cardio when I bulk? For me, of course, the answer is yes. Cardio is a big part of working out, staying in shape, keeping yourself healthy. Making sure you don't die, much like the micronutrients we talked about earlier. I still will be implementing cardio. The cardio I do isn't really for fat loss anyway. It is to stay in shape and be able to move. Now, that being said, I am going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to be looking at more alternative forms of cardio than I traditionally do. When I was cutting, I was doing an hour a week on the Stairmaster. I'll probably cut that in half and go for 30 minutes a week on the Stairmaster or a full incline walk on the treadmill. And then I'm going to try to do some other forms of alternative cardio as well. I'm going to add swimming. I'm going to try to do some rope climbing and maybe some heavy bag boxing as well, but we'll see on that. But yes, cardio is still important even when you're bulking. It doesn't affect your rate of weight gain or loss that much. If you're eating in a calorie surplus, keep your cardio in there. You'll still feel good. One other FAQ is, which I kind of already touched on, is expected rate of progress during a bulk. It depends on how shallow or how deep that surplus is compared to your maintenance calories. I am going to be eating in a relatively shallow one, so I'm expecting a total of, we'll put an estimate on it and say 7 pounds of total body mass gained over the course of the next 15 weeks. All right, another FAQ is just how to track progress, and there are a bunch of different ways you can do that. Mention the lifts. Keeping track of your lifts while you're bulking is a great thing to do. I recommend everybody do it. You should be tracking your lifts all the time anyway, but especially when you're bulking, because you will see those numbers go up, and you don't want to waste these extra calories that you are getting. They're going to make you feel better, make you feel your workouts a little bit better. Another thing to track progress, of course, is the scale, which we touched on. That weight is going to go up, but if you are weighing yourself, a few things to keep in mind with the scale. I would either weigh yourself every day or every month. Every week is the worst amount of time to be weighing yourself because the scale is finicky, your weight is finicky, the amount of, if you've gone to the bathroom, if you've drank a certain amount of water, it's going to change. So every week, you could just get a bad weigh one week and then a good one the next week and then be a little bit off. It's just not consistent enough. Whereas every day, even though you might be going up and down, it should slowly be going the direction you want it to go over time. Whereas every month, that's a long enough time in between that it should be going the right way as well. So I wouldn't weigh myself every week. If I was really into the scale and had an aggressive scale goal, it would be every day or every month. But I still think the scale is overrated and not the best way to go about determining a goal. Take some progress pics. Take one right at the start of your bulk. And then take one, a month in, 2 months in. You will see yourself getting a little bit fluffier, probably a little bit uglier, but eventually that is going to pay off, and you should be seeing yourself getting a little bit bigger and stronger as well. The strength, of course, comes from your lifts. Track them, especially bigger lifts that you can set goals on. Things like bench press that are going to be consistent if you're a squatter, if you're a deadlifter. I use weighted pull-ups as a good kind of metric, even though those do get harder as you bulk because you're getting heavier as well as the weights. And then finally, a way to track is just how your clothes fit. A good way to look at it is that kind of during or at the end of a cut, you look really skinny with clothes on, but you look good with clothes off. Bulking is the opposite. You look good and jacked and full with clothes on, then you look a little thick and fluffy with clothes off. So you are going to start to look better in your clothes if you're bulking properly. Things are going to fit a little bit tighter in the right places, hopefully, as long as you're not gaining too much fat, and keep it consistent. And once the Saints win the Super Bowl and we can flip this around, or the Bills, bet on the Bills. But we can kind of flip this around and start going the other way, and you'll see yourself looking maybe worse with clothes on, skinnier, but much, much better when you take your shirt off when the sun starts to come out. All right, just to wrap things up, if you want a custom nutrition plan, a custom workout plan, whether you're bulking, whether you're cutting, whether you want to follow along with me, you can get all that on my website, rulestoliftby.com. Gonna do it for a little bit of a discounted price for the first month of this bulk, so you can head over there and check that out. It's nice and cheap. And if you want to apply for one-on-one coaching, I am doing that now as well, so that's something you can get into. Just send me a message on Instagram, or again, go to the website. There's application links. Just you have to answer a few questions about yourself, and if we fit, we'll work together and help you get jacked. rulestoliftby.com.